Hey everybody, Dave P here, and today we are talking about training an acquisitions representative for your real estate investment business. And this is when you're trying to scale up a little bit. A lot of us as real estate entrepreneurs, we start out, you're everything. You're wearing every single hat when you first get started. You're the acquisitions rep, you're the admin, you're the closing, transaction coordinator, disposition. You're doing it all when you first get started. But then as you grow your real estate business, you probably want to start to scale a little bit and get some support in acquisitions, and training an acquisitions rep. Training them correctly is a very important skill set to learn for you as a business owner. And we've trained numerous. Me personally, I've trained a lot of different acquisitions reps over the years, and I've really kind of come up with the do's and the don'ts of how to train an acquisitions rep. So step number one is you've got to make sure you're ingraining good habits in this person, good behaviors, right? And that really comes down to the systems that you're using. You've got to make sure that they are updating their CRM, their client relationship manager, their lead manager. So you got to create good habits, because if they get off on the wrong foot and they create bad habits, it's going to trickle, it's going to ruin their career. You're never going to be happy. So make sure right off the bat they know you've got to update the CRM after every conversation that you have. After every single appointment that you have, you've got to update the system, right? Update the CRM. In our case, we use Podio, right? Whatever it may be. It doesn't matter what type of sales that you're training. This is very important, ingrain good habits, but you don't want them, you want to make sure they understand the systems. You don't want a salesperson to just be training on all the technicalities of the system and the CRM and this and that. Just make sure they know enough to update their notes, and then we've got to move into phase two as fast as humanly possible, and that is talking to people. No real estate deal is ever going to happen unless you actually pick up the phone, talk to people, and that is where the bulk of your training needs to be. You do got to start out with the systems training, make sure they know what they're doing, make sure they're creating good habits, but you really want to get right into talking to people. And we've broken talking to sellers, talking to people down really into 4 different phases. So I listen to a lot of my calls, and every single real estate negotiation, there's really only 4 things you're talking about. And it's not in chronological order, and I've done a video about this before, but everything that's kind of, communicating is one of these 4 things. Number 1, it's explaining your process and explaining what you do as a business. So your acquisitions rep must have the facts of the company. They need to know the background of the company. They need to know kind of that credibility stuff that they can lean on, so when they're explaining what we do as a company, they have the facts and they have their facts together. They need to be able to explain our process of how we buy houses. So what I like to do is just give them the facts, but let them explain it in their own way. You could give somebody a fully, typed up script and make them read it verbatim. It's always going to sound scripty. You've got to give the facts and give the bullet points, but then let the representative explain it in their own way, because that's where they're going to be the most confident. So the first phase of talking is explaining the process. Second phase is building rapport, and what we like to talk about is form, F-O-R-M, friends and family, occupation, recreation, and then the motivation, that's the M. And you're always looking for little clues. You're like a little real estate acquisitions detective. And let's say you're talking about, your process, and they say, oh, where are you located at in Columbus? And I say, oh, we got an office here, we got an office here, and they say, oh, we used to have an old house there. If you're talking, any clue that they give you to build rapport around, if they say, oh, my brother lives over there, great, what's your brother do? Oh, maybe we'll meet for lunch, haha, build a friend, make a friend. Listen for little clues of friends and family, occupation. Maybe they say, oh, I used to work over in that part of town. Really? What did you do for a living? Right? Occupation, you're talking, build rapport around friends and family, occupation, recreation. Maybe they say, oh, I play golf in that part of town. Great. What course do you go to? How long have you been golfing for? I'm a terrible golfer. Ha ha ha. Right? So step 1, explain the process. Step 2, building rapport around the form, and then teach your representative to build rapport in their own way, but look for those little clues in the conversation with the seller. Number 3 is gathering data on the house. This is easy, right? How many bedrooms are there? How many bathrooms are there? Is there a garage? Is there a basement, right? Can you tell me about any updates that you've done to the property, or maybe any updates that might be needed? Gathering data. That's really crucial, because you're always going to be gathering data. That's clues around to build motivation, because if they start to tell you that the house needs work, you're all making these mental notes of this stuff, right? We buy a lot of the vast majority of the houses that we buy, we're buying them over the phone, right? But you got to listen to these clues. Step one, make sure your rep knows how to explain your process, and explain when they're asked the question, what do you do? They know how to do it, and they have the facts of the company. Number two, building rapport, right? Number three, gathering data, gathering the correct data about the property, and a lot of it has to do with the property. And then number four is their motivation, right? Is why are they selling? Number four is probably the most important thing. So you're gonna want them to understand the mechanics and the structure of a acquisition, but let them do it their own way, based on the facts and the bullet points that you provide them, and get them listening to a lot of calls. Do a little role playing. I don't really like role playing, quite honestly. I would much rather the acquisitions rep just get out there, make a bunch of mistakes, and fall on their face as fast as humanly possible. The best way to learn how to swim sometimes is get thrown in the pool, right? Learn to kick those feet and move those arms and keep your head above water. So you're not going to give your acquisitions rep the prime time leads here, everybody. Get them on follow-up first. Get them going through the CRM and going through the database and going through all of the old leads, striking up conversations. This is where we're at, number one. So first phase, everybody, is our systems training, right? We don't want to spend too much time on the systems training, because we want to get them talking to people as fast as humanly possible, but you do want to create good habits around the systems that you're using, because if the representative is not utilizing the system and they have bad habits, it defeats the purpose of having the system. And then number two is these, talking to sellers, and those four things, like I said: learn to explain your process, learn to build rapport, learn to gather data, and learn to figure out why they are selling, because 99.99% of the time, why they are selling is more important than what they're selling. It's your boy Dave P. We will see you on the next video.